James Delucia here, and today I am talking about one of my favorite subjects in the world. Coffee. I'm a coffee fanatic. I probably drink at least one cup per day. Sometimes two might be a little too much in Vietnam. The coffee here is very strong, and I'm going to go over why that is here in a minute. What I've got here is called café soda, which is iced coffee with condensed milk in it, and it's absolutely amazing. This one, I'm lucky enough to have a coffee shop downstairs of my apartment. I have a banh mi place on one side and a coffee shop on the other. So in the morning, all I have to do is go downstairs and breakfast and coffee right there. It's great. So the thing about coffee in Vietnam is that they grow mostly Robusta. I went over this a little bit the other day in my one of my food eating videos. So the thing that makes coffee different in Vietnam is that they use Robusta instead of Arabica that we're used to in the States. Arabica is mostly what's grown in like Nicaragua, Brazil, places like that. They grow mostly Robusta. They're the biggest producer of Robusta in the world. Second biggest producer of coffee in the world next to Brazil. So we're talking about a country basically that's roughly the size of California and part of Oregon that produces the second most coffee in the entire world. And the funny story about that is that when the French first brought coffee to Vietnam, I want to say in 1857, they couldn't get it to grow properly. They were trying to grow it in lowlands, and they were trying to just different spots, and they just couldn't grow it properly. So they brought it to the highlands, specifically Dak Lak, which is about, I guess it's probably about 10 hours north of Ho Chi Minh City, where I am right now, by bus. To actually get there, I would take a flight to Dak Lak, or I think Dak Lak, which is only like an hour flight. So they brought it to Dak Lak, and it was able to grow really well there. So they started producing and producing and producing, but they noticed that because of the elevation, Robusta was doing better than the Arabica, and they still grow Arabica here, but they do mostly grow the Robusta. The thing about the Robusta is that it has twice the caffeine of Arabica, so you do have to kind of calm it down. They do cut it. They do make different brands, and a lot of the brands will put some Arabica in there, but not as much since Robusta is so much more widely grown here. During and after the Vietnam War, there's a big lull in coffee production, so it really took a lot out of the economy there. On top of their already overinflation from devaluing the dollar, their Vietnamese dong. Dong is the name of their dollar, yeah. So they on top of devaluing their currency, they weren't producing as much coffee, which is their second, I want to say their second largest crop in Vietnam, next to rice. So anyway, they have a ton of different kinds of coffee. They've got egg coffee, they've got coconut coffee, they've got just all kinds. I prefer on a day like this, since it normally is relatively hot in Saigon, I'll get the iced coffee. Sometimes I'll get it with the condensed milk. It's extremely sweet, but it goes well with that bitter coffee. So let me explain the coffee to you, Robusta in general. Generally, Robusta will have more of a bitter taste than Arabica, which is why I think Arabica is more popular in the States. It's a little bit more smooth, a little less bitter, a little bit less acidic. Whereas Robusta, more acidic, more bitter, but it's also got this heavy chocolate undertone, which I really, really enjoy, especially when I get a sweeter one with the, not really especially, but also with the condensed milk. That sweetness really cuts out that bitter and really complements that chocolate. So it's like, ultimately, it's like drinking a mocha without really trying to drink a mocha. Like I said, they do have different kinds of coffee. One coffee that's very popular, and you may have heard of it, is their civet coffee. There's a lot of different names for it. The Indonesians call it Cafe Luwak. I still haven't gotten a name for it in Vietnam. Basically, they just call it weasel coffee. So what it is this weasel-like animal. It's a weasel cat-like animal called a civet. It's neither a cat nor is it a weasel. What they'll do is they'll come down and they'll eat the coffee beans. And after they eat the coffee beans, after they ingest the coffee beans, there's an enzyme in their stomach that will break down the acids, and they'll poop out this coffee bean. And the Vietnamese will take it, or the Indonesians or Malaysians or who have you will take the bean, they'll wash it, they'll clean it well, and then they'll turn it into, they'll roast it and turn it into a coffee. And it is actually really good. It is surprisingly good. I've had it several times. I've bought a few bags of it, and it is way better than you would expect it to be. It doesn't have any poop flavor or anything like that. What happens is the enzyme does break down the acids. It does make it a lot smoother, and when you drink it, it is noticeably less bitter. Noticeably, it still retains that chocolate flavor, that chocolate undertone. So there is that. Now, because it is Robusta, Vietnam is a lot less, Vietnamese coffee is a lot less known in the States. You really have to order online. There is one place, there's one producer that I think has a good Robusta blend, and that you may have heard of Café du Monde, which is a very popular cafe in New Orleans that has the beignets that are amazing, and it's a tourist spot, but I do actually really like the place. But they have a coffee, and it's also got a little, I think they add chicory to it, but I believe that they use Robusta in that. Other than that, I don't think you can find any commercially sold in mass coffee, Robusta coffee in the States. I've looked out there, HEB in Texas. I've looked at various grocery stores and I have not been able to find it. But what you can do is you can go on Amazon and you can order their Trung Nguyen, which is a popular, it's not the best coffee, but it is a fairly good representation of Robusta. It's a good coffee. It's a solid, it's better than Folgers, let's put it that way. But it's definitely something I would look into. I will look for more sources in the States, but I have before and I haven't really come up with much. But if you're interested in it and you want to ask me about it or comment in the video, I will do a little bit more digging and see what I can come up with. So there is that. So let's get to egg coffee. Egg coffee is really popular mostly in the north, in Hanoi. And what happened was during the war, specifically the Vietnamese War, Vietnamese-American War, they didn't have a lot of production of milk products or dairy products. And so what they would do is they would take the egg whites and they would blend that quickly into the coffee and kind of give the coffee this creamy, bubbly, kind of overexpanded like texture, and so it kind of stuck. Actually, I think they use egg yolks, if I'm not mistaken. I'll look on that and write it over here, as I do sometimes. I haven't had my coffee yet today, so I'm still getting through waking up and getting through the whole rigmarole of life. So they started adding whatever part of the egg that they add to make it a creamier texture and give it better flavor. They throw some sugar in there and then adds a little sweetness. It doesn't taste like eggs though. It tastes more like a custard than it does eggs, and it is amazing. So think of coffee custard, and if you can handle that, I would absolutely go try an egg coffee in Hanoi, or here in I know I can think of a couple spots over off the walking street, Bui Vien, that they have some egg coffee. I'm not really sure of other spots. I normally stick to my Café d'Ac, my iced coffee. But I'm sure other people will know. Maybe they'll be nice enough to comment below and tell you where to find that. I don't know if I've seen it here. I've had it in Indonesia. They have avocado coffee. And avocado coffee, what they do is they add avocado to coffee. I know it's a huge stretch there. And it adds that creaminess, adds that extra texture, that extra layer of just with the lack of any better word, robustness to the coffee, which is ironic because they actually use more Arabica in Indonesia than Robusta. So that was really good. What they do is they mix the coffee in with the avocado, you know, blend it up really nicely, get it nice and thick, and then they'll throw some chocolate on top, and amazing, so good. I've only had it in Sumatra, in the north of Sumatra by Aceh, or even by, I think I might have had some in Mandalay, which is the capital of Sumatra. Anyway, I'm totally digressing into that. This is mostly about Vietnamese coffee. So if you get a chance, I'll throw a link in, you know, down below to get that Trung Nguyen. I would definitely invest in it. You can get a big can for like, I think $10 to $12. So check it out. You will, if nothing else, you'll be wide awake. It does pack a punch. I've been a coffee drinker my whole life, well, my whole adult life, and it is definitely the strongest of the coffees that I have had. So check it out. It'll keep you awake. You'll get your chores done. You know, whatever else you have to do when you're in a quarantine state like we are right now. Your house will be the cleanest it's probably ever been since it's been built. So yeah, check it out. If you have any ideas for what you want to see from Vietnam, or from, you know, any of the local foods here outside of my quarantine in Saigon segments, let me know, and I will do what I can to get that taken care of as soon as all of this this pandemic stuff is over. I will be taking a month off, or actually, let me rephrase that. I will be going to the jungle for a month. I may or may not try to do some videos while I'm there. It's really hard because, you know, the restaurants aren't, I'm not going to do a video about the restaurants there. They're just, you know, they're not something I really want to showcase. The closest town is about 30 kilometers away, but I don't anticipate renting a motorbike right now. Maybe I will, since I'll be there for a month, but we'll see. So any more questions about coffee, feel free to leave them and I'll do what I can to answer them. I am a big avid fan. I like talking about coffee. I love coffee, and I'll do what I can to respond. So this is Coffee, and I am James Jalokia, and you are watching Jimmy Eats World.